back.
We're back, baby! For episode 33 of All the Horrible Things. I'm your co-host, Mr. Enan J. Hennigoon. With me, as always, is...
Chris.
One and only Chris.
The energy, Chris. Just Chris. Chris Pagnosi.
It's Friday. Why don't you got the energy? Come on. You got Friday energy today. Normally we're recording on Thursdays.
I only get energy from eating pizza on Friday.
That's fair. What kind of pizza are we talking today?
Tavern style.
Maybe any particular joint?
Oh man, I got so many by me. I got John's on Western's really good, real classic. Tortorisi's on Grand Avenue, very good. So yeah,
I haven't tried that one. A lot of people in my building are always getting Tortorisi's, and I've never had it, so I'm very curious about that one.
Oh, there's because there's one up on Irving Park as well. It's good, yeah.
What's your favorite trash pizza in terms of the franchises?
Jets.
Jets, all right.
Oh man, Jets is great.
I have nostalgia for Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Especially my poor days, those $5 hot and readies got me through some tough times. But I gotta give Domino's credit. I feel like their revamped sauce and their oily crust now, not bad. I don't stub my nose at Domino's these days like I used to.
The only thing I would say about Domino's that I would say cut it out. Or stop making weird sandwiches and pasta dishes.
Stick with what you know. I agree. Yeah. They need to focus. Which is interesting because today we are talking about a derivative, right, of American Horror Story. We are talking about the calzones of the American Horror franchise, which is American Horror Stories.
Correct. The anthology.
Season 2. The anthology, exactly. Did you watch the first season?
Yes, I did. I remember not liking the first couple episodes because I thought, wait a minute, are we just doing stuff within the American Horror Story universe that already exists?
Right.
And I did not necessarily like how close it was to what we've seen already. It almost just seemed like mini episodes of seasons.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I do love Murder House enough in those first 2 episodes of the first season. I was excited to be back in Murder House, but I do agree with you. It was kind of a retread.
Yeah. Until I think it was episode 3 or whatever, when they did the drive-in episode, which kind of felt like a tribute to George Romero. And that's when I was like, okay, this is what this needs to be. American Horror Stories needs to be little short films that don't necessarily tie everything together in their universe, which is fun. I get it. If you're an avid fan, it's fun to point things out. And but the drive-in was very fun episode.
I loved the drive-in because it reminded me of one of my favorite kind of noir horror-ish novels called Flicker. I don't know if you've heard of this novel, but it also deals with a film that kind of hypnotizes people when they watch it and deals with the horror genre in a really interesting way. It's one of my favorite novels, Flicker. And this is what's going on with that drive-in in that first season. Ultimately, you got the movie called Rabbit that's been censored. Yeah. When people watch it, they start killing each other. And then what I also liked is they had the backstory behind the filmmaker, played by John Carroll Lynch at the time, who was always good. I just thought that one was a little more original, a little nuanced, even though it really did feel like a derivative of this novel that I'm talking about. Nevertheless, it was definitely worth a look. The rest of them, I didn't really love. There's that one with the frat trying to be influencers and doing horrible things to people to kind of stay in the know. The only good part about that one was Danny Trejo as the murderous Santa Claus, right?
Always there to save the day, Danny Trejo. I will say this, though. It took me a little while to put on season 2 then because of that. I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't necessarily love the first episode out of the gate. What we're going to do in this episode is we're going to rank our favorites from season 2, which I thought was a lot better than season 1. And do you want to just jump into it then, or is there anything else you want to cover? Because I think
let's do that. But you know what? I did notice that you were very hesitant to jump into it because I had kind of pitched this one a couple times. Like, yeah, I'm going to get around to it. Oh, I do it. Don't you worry. We're eventually going to watch them.
And it's true. I was just like, it seemed like homework, like, yes, I'll get to it on Sunday night. I'll do it Monday morning. And then I finally found the time, and I was able to like knock them all out relatively pretty quickly, which I enjoyed. There were a couple that I thought were like, lacking, but then there were a
Yes.
handful that, because there was 8 total, and then there was like a handful of them that really stood out. Felt like almost like the stuff I used to love in the 80s, like your
Tales
Tales
of the
from the
Crypt sort of
Crypt.
anthology
Yeah,
decency. Yeah.
yes, yes.
I think you might have watched it the right way by binging, because I do feel like the series is hit or miss, as they say. And when you do watch one that really misses, it really kind of makes you not want to go back.
Yeah.
But if you had the capacity
Well,
to watch them a little more fluidly, I think you could maybe get over it more than like dwelling on what a crap episode 1 was for a week and
don't
then
you
having
think
to
that
dive back
is
in.
sort of the secret to just watching American Horror Story, like in general, is to sort of
Oh,
binge it, because week has been,
is it torturous for you? I
yeah,
don't know. I like having that splash of horror every week. It really depends on the theme of the season. Speaking of which, we can
yes.
talk about the new season theme for American Horror Story was dropped this week. Have you seen what it
I
is?
no, inform me, please.
New York City, baby. Just NYC, AHS, NYC. That's all we get. I think
Wow.
there's an image of someone in like it looked kind of like
I
lingerie rubbery sort of thing, but not
like,
completely gimp mode.
but like bending backwards, because I think I've seen the image pop
Yes,
up.
yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
I'm intrigued. I think it's interesting if they start going into the city modes. I wouldn't mind an AHS Chicago. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it
Like
would.
sit back in like Capone days, or
Oh, I
having
think you
something to
could
do with
you
like
could
like what is it? Bessie the cow who started the Chicago fire. I would like to know her backstory, man. I bet
but
it's
don't you think they could beat Devil in the White City to it and do like an H.H. Holmes? Like, 'cause that'd be like a new murder house.
that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, they could.
There's
Chicago's
a
is
lot of
rife for that opportunity, but New
yeah,
York
a lot of
City is going to be
subject
good
matter.
too. I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. Um, I've only been there once. Have you been to NYC often?
I've been there twice. Once in the winter, which was brutal. I mean, you're used to it in Chicago, but it was like, this is maybe 2002 or something, and they had
Mm.
like a record-breaking blizzard. I was there like in
Oh wow.
February, and the flights were all canceled going home. We had to take a train home, and that was a bit of a bummer experience because of that. But then I've been there in the summer, and it's super fun, kind of like Chicago is. But there's so much to do. You need to do New York in multiple trips, because you
Right.
got to jump all over. You got to focus on things. And I wasn't really there to do the as touristy things like the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, you want to see that, but once you're there, you're like, I don't know. I just want to like experience the New York experience and like eat and drink.
There's a trick to it. Even though I've been to NYC only once, I was there for like a whole summer. So that's like a big
Oh,
old
okay,
chunker of a once.
I
And I
remember that.
too
Yeah,
was not super interested in going to these tourist traps. But
right.
my friend's girlfriend is a secret shopper. So she then has the opportunity to go to all these places that I otherwise wouldn't go and wouldn't want to spend the money to for free. And then, of course, it's kind of fun because you get to judge the people that are, in charge and stuff at the same time. So I got to go to the tippity top of the Empire State Building, like the additional one where it costs even more money to go even
Wow.
further up. And that was pretty spectacular, something I'll never forget. But yes, even in the summer, you can't get enough out of NYC. So I do think
Right.
we're in for a treat with this one, hopefully. I think also based on the mixed reviews last season got with the vampire/alien hybrid season,
Yeah.
they got to prove something here. I love the vampire part of that one, but
Same.
aliens, as much as I love aliens, didn't really click with me, especially men giving birth to half human, half alien babies. Just didn't do it for me, man. But
Yeah.
we're getting off track here. Let's
all
talk
right.
about the
That's all right.
worst episodes, in our opinion, of American Horror Stories season 2. Which one did you think sucked the hardest?
I think Necro was the
Oh,
the worst, in my opinion. I found moments of it that I was just really bored.
yeah. Yeah, it tried to almost be a little artsy. Just give them a quick rundown of what this one is even about.
Okay, this is about a mortician, right? That's the proper terminology.
Yeah.
A woman who is working at a funeral home, the mortician. You know, you're there to make the body presentable to the family so they can say goodbye. But she's very good at it. Um, it's weird. She finds this connection to it. It's almost like she's happier there than she
Right.
is in other aspects of her life. She's almost obsessed with the dead. Uh,
Mhm.
so much so that it's hurting like her relationship with her fiance, who we find out wants to marry her. Her boyfriend, he wants to become her fiance.
Right.
Her friends are a little confused because they think she's got this great catch, but you know she's just obsessed with this position in her life.
Right.
And then there's this new guy who starts there working there, and he's very mysterious, uh charming at first, then really really weird.
So she's the
I don't.
mortician. He's the Undertaker, right? Isn't that what you call
Right,
him?
right. He transports the bodies to and from. I would say that's probably the only thing he does. But yeah, I thought I don't think the performances were bad by any means. I thought their
No.
relationship was just very weird because she becomes so much obsessed with the dad that I think it's the only thing that can actually please her on a couple
Right.
different levels there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're burying the lead of how this one was pitched, right? Ultimately, she falls for this Undertaker guy. He fakes her out with a prank, pretending he's dead, and she has to like do him over, and she decides to do him instead, while he's supposedly dead. Turns out he's not.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you've seen in the news recently, but there have been these weddings where the bride has cheated on the husband, and then at the ceremony they play the tape of the wife
I had heard of
cheating.
that. Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
was, I feel like, pulled straight from the news stories because this woman who then thought she was betting a corpse turns out not to be. He then plays that video at her wedding to sabotage it because he feels like she's meant for him. Um,
Right.
it's a cringy episode. I didn't put it the last one. I put it the second last for me,
Okay. Yeah.
because it was a hard one to watch, and I completely agree that it was slow, and it's really hard to get on board with a character who does want to, get on dead people. But she had an
Well,
interesting backstory. I mean,
I
we are
thought
going into
her.
spoilers here, people.
Oh yeah. That's initially like we hadn't discussed that, so
Right.
that's initially why I didn't say exactly what happens in this episode. But you're right. I mean, we're just going to jump into it. And the thing I didn't necessarily have an issue with her obsession with the dead. I had an issue with this male character coming into her life and then
Yeah.
destroying it. I
Right.
mean,
If he loves her, why is he destroying her life like that?
because they take it to a whole other level where he's not just ruining her close friends and family. It's one of those, now she's
Her
being
life,
identified because it's
Right.
gone viral.
Yes.
And I don't blame her. Like, he's still trying to come around.
It's like
and
revenge porn situation with him, but then at
Yeah.
the end she falls back for him, which is very not complicated, but troubling, let's say,
yeah,
to say the
yeah.
least. Yeah, I think it was a hard sell. I think they were trying to do like a really really dark Romeo and Juliet thing, especially at the end there, where they're only going to be
Yes.
happy together, dead together. Didn't love it. Didn't love it. It was
No.
one that I had to
No.
stop in the middle and then pick back up.
Yeah,
because
like I was
wasn't
saying,
a
it was
huge
just
fan.
yeah, the middle of that episode just gets really, really boring. And the leap from him 1 minute being alive and then next being on the table, just like, what?
And why is he playing that trick on her? He's just an asshole to begin
It's the
with.
worst
too.
trick. And then he records it? Come on.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's why it was 6 for me out of 7.
Okay, well, what was your number 8?
My 7 was then the last one of the
First.
season. Like, despite Alicia Silverstone, I really felt
man.
like I was brought back to that really crappy shark movie we just watched with Alicia Silverstone too, because there was a lot of
100
similar scenes with the rope. I feel like she got cast in this one based on a couple scenes from that shark one we just watched with her. It was just sappy, over dramatic. Ultimately, it's a legacy horror situation where
Yeah.
the son is sucked under into this old town that essentially has been ruined because a dam was put up by his dad's dad, right?
Right,
The family
which-
history is the reason this family is kind of getting messed with by these sea people, swamp sea, what do you even call them? Sea
People of the lake.
zombies. Yes, people of the lake. Yes, zombies of the lake.
So
Really just cheesy, right?
yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna just. So this is my number 7. I didn't hate it as much as Necro, or I shouldn't say hate.
Wait a minute. Oh,
I
you know what? I'm missing one then because I put
Yes, I was
this.
going to say, because there are
Oh
there are 8.
dear.
There was
What
7
did I not
episodes, I
put in
think, in
there?
season 1. There
Okay.
were 8 in this season. So my number 8 was Necro. My number 7 is Lake, for many similar reasons to you. I thought Alicia Silverstone, it was fun. I didn't know she was going to be in it. I didn't think it I don't know. I don't know why she was drawn to this role, really. I I didn't think there was anything special about this mom character, unfortunately. And because I thought that the start was kind of cool, they're scuba diving, they're getting drunk on this boat, this pontoon boat.
Great underwater
And
scenes too.
yes,
I like when
yes,
he's
the
picking
creepy
up this old timey
tricycle.
sign. Yeah, the creepy
Yeah,
tricycle. It had potential.
that's what I'm getting at. Is I thought this had a better story than Necro, but Lake really kind of just falls apart at the end. There's no explanation. Like, we find out the father is the lawyer who has been allowing this property to never be like rezoned. Like,
Right.
his
Keep the
his
dam up that's making his family money.
yes, and his law firm has been working on this case for a long time. I don't understand why he was also related to the people. It didn't make, like, it would have
No.
been cool if they really kind of like planted those seeds a little bit earlier. And like, maybe we find out that he becomes a lawyer to do this. Like, it was his duty to do this. And I don't know. They really just sort of falls apart at the end.
It was kind of alluded to in terms of where this lake was located versus their home, because if he's supposed to be living there, it apparently took her a long time to drive to this lake. Additionally, when the father is then pulled into the lake by these sea people,
Right.
literally Lisa Silverstone's like, that's just the way it's supposed to happen. She was just like totally
Yeah.
okay with it, didn't give a shit.
Right.
At least the
Right. Right.
daughter was a
Right.
little sad. Dad, we gotta go after dad. That
Yeah.
Alicia's like, no, this is what, because he didn't up till then. Granted, he was a shitty husband, and they did play that thread throughout the whole thing where he
They
wasn't there
did.
for her.
They did.
So I
He
guess
didn't
she kind of
believe
had
her.
some reasons to be okay with him getting pulled into his watery death. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I have a bottom one that hasn't been mentioned yet. I did rank them all, and my 8th, by far, only one that I only got 3/4 through and just didn't watch the end of it because I was so disgusted with it. And honestly, when it made me want to throw up was Milkmaids. Milkmaids
Okay.
was the most disgusting episode of both seasons by far. I could not enjoy this one in the least.
I ranked it a little bit higher because, we'll get to it. We'll get to it because I was also repulsed by it, and we could talk about my opinion on it later.
But ultimately, both have Lake and Necro super low.
Yeah.
They're my 7 and 6, but yeah, below that, I missed it. I probably tried to erase this out of my mind. Milkmaids, which is set back in colonial times, right? And ultimately, before there's vaccines, but there's this one woman who is a prostitute who also has all these pustules over her body, and these pustules allow them to avoid. Was it the plague or
Yes,
what
there
was
is
it,
a
polio?
plague.
The plague.
There
okay.
is a plague going around,
and if you drink her pus, you're going to be safe from the plague. And literally, that's what happens throughout this entire episode. Is people just like sucking on her pustules, and like, I like gross out horror, but this, I might have found my line. Found my line.
Yeah,
because pus consumption, man. Did you see anything redeemable about this episode?
No, but it's just funny because I have never watched horror and kind of like gagged, and I had a gag reflex watching this.
I'd rather see brains eaten, anything else eaten from the human body, other than
the very first time it happens. It's somehow you kind of get a little used to it by the end of it, but the first time when that guy shows up at the Milkmaid's house and you see it, and it is repulsive. It is grotesque. The thing I liked about this, I really like when American Horror Story does early America. I
Yeah.
loved the setting. I loved the characters. I loved that whole um, almost witchcraft, like Salem witchcraft vibe it had going on. It meets
Yes, I agree. It
um,
kind of harkened back to Roanoke a little bit too. If you remember
yes,
that
which
season.
oh man, I love the start of Roanoke, and then
You know,
um,
I like them both. I like that payoff at the end, but we can talk about
okay, yeah,
AHSs
that's a
later.
whole other story. But yeah, I
Okay, I will give you. I feel like the male characters were interesting, but the irony is that
yes,
I feel like they were trying to make a feminist story, and these women
mm-hmm,
characters were just ridiculous. Particularly the one that wasn't pustule based. Her friend that was helping her out, she was not a good performer. She was struggling from my perspective. I
yeah,
struggled. I didn't enjoy her performance. Let's put it that way. Maybe
right,
it was just the
all right,
character. Didn't do it for me. But we do got one of the old staples. Who's the guy that's in this one? That's in a lot of them. Milkmaids.
yeah. I think his name is
Cody Fern, I think.
Cody.
Yeah, he's got the kid whose mother
Plays
died, and they dig her up and eat
right,
her heart and stuff. Uh, and I always love an evil preacher, right? So
yeah,
I do
yeah.
like the angle, the commentary on the church,
The
and also the
church,
feminist angle. It's just the manner in which they did it was just gross out. It didn't feel like horror to me. You know what I mean? It felt like
no,
just junior high disgusting. I don't know.
yes,
I,
no. I'll agree with that. I'll agree
where
with
did you
that.
put it? What was your ranking?
It's my number five
Okay.
because
All right.
okay, so well, I think you need to do another one. But okay, so my 8 was Necro, my
Right.
7 was Lake, my 6, and I just didn't care for the story was Dollhouse.
All right. I do find that interesting. Because that's my number one, baby.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yes.
that's good. I like when we shake things up like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Okay. What
I
didn't you like about it?
um
Well, set up the premise.
well, okay, so there's this is it played by Toby Hutt? No, who is the actor? It's not Toby.
Oh, our old dude who's always in everything. He's so great. Dennis
Yes.
O'Hare.
Yes, okay. He's great. His performances are always great. I got excited when I first saw him, especially like the character like, "Oh, he owns a doll factory." I don't care for dolls in horror. I
Okay.
mean, unless it's Chucky, like I've seen dolls. It's such a cliche. It's kind of like, are we still doing doll stuff? So he is the owner of the doll company factory, whatever,
Yeah.
and he has lost his wife, and we know that he has a son.
Right.
And the episode kicks off in a job interview, and we meet our our hero really, who's auditioning for what she thinks is a job, which ends up turning to be a competition when
Mm-hmm.
she is sort of like rejected the job, like you're not good, and then knocked out, wakes up in
Right.
this dollhouse where which this was kind of clever that they're wearing masks. Now I get it, like, oh, they're like living dolls, but
Right.
this I don't know. I think maybe I needed like more background on these other characters or
I
something for
see.
me to have more interest in what was going on because it turns out to be a
Well,
fight for survival.
yeah, I
Well,
mean
go
that's kind
ahead.
of what I liked. I saw this as a huge fan of like Survivor and Big Brother. This was a horror
It
survival
felt like a
competition reality
yeah,
show where you
yeah.
actually die, a la Squid Game almost. And I do
Hmm.
like the angle of who's going to be the best mother for this kid, and how all these women are given archetypal dollhouse figurine sort of roles and that they have to fulfill.
Right.
What's kind of strange about the part that I tried to wrestle with, and you mentioned you don't like it when they tap back into the actual series, was that the main girl who
Yes.
does win also happens to have magic powers, right? Does
Right.
she's a witch
This.
ultimately, because we go back to the Coven house at the end of this one, because she's the
Yeah.
one that does escape and runs out and is able to save the boy too. I liked the dynamic between the few women that they did focus on. You're right.
Hmm.
We didn't get a
Hmm.
backstory on a lot of them, but that's because I think
Oh,
they just were getting lopped off. They had to be
sure.
used as the fodder. But
Totally understand.
specifically the maid versus our main girl, their dynamic and rivalry, I found interesting, and I felt
Hmm.
Dennis O'Hare and his lackey, I enjoyed. Dennis O'Hare always brings so much to every role he does. They're always so different too. He's such
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
character actor, and
He's
I
great.
also
He's great.
really liked the set. I mean, making the house seem like it's a
Yeah.
dollhouse itself, and they can't lift the windows, and they're just stuck there like they are. They're completely objectified. I feel like similar to what Milkmaids was trying to do with the feminist angle, they succeeded in this one. But I do feel like it was kind of a cop out to then give her the magical powers.
Yes. This is what I'm getting at. So I would have really liked if we found another way for this character to survive. But we already know that she's intelligent. She's using her wits about her. But when she introduces that magic, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But then when they copped out and they made it seem like we didn't know how to end this episode, so what do? We connect it to the American Horror Story universe, where
Yeah.
the other witches show up to save her, because she ultimately does become the doll, which I also don't know how she survived that, because shouldn't it have been like really hot? like
Yeah.
during
When she
encasing
gets
her in
completely
porcelain?
encased.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh
Um, I hear what you're saying, but I just realized in the first season they connected back to the first season of American Horror Story, right?
Correct. And
Second
this is the
season, now we're
first
getting
episode.
brought back to the second series. So by this logic, you would think American Horror Stories 3 is they're going to go back to the third season potentially,
Okay,
which is the
and
carnival season, right? Isn't that the third one?
correct.
Which is amazing. I love that season so much.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Freak
I'm going to
show.
be a little forgiving of it because I do think Coven is in the top 3 seasons of all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily have that much of an objection, and nobody like annoyed me performance wise in this one.
No.
But in terms of the cop out, I'm with you. I feel like, yeah, it was my number one just because I liked it and I accepted that. I accepted it.
Let me ask you this: did the little boy deserve to survive?
No, that was a little brat, little Damien, little.
Thank you. That's another.
I hated
that's another
that
problem.
kid.
When she saves him,
Better-
and like, I'm going to be your mom. Like, why? He ratted you out. He is clearly the son of this father. He is gonna,
Yeah.
unless you bring that back and later,
Right.
like you tie it in to another. And you know what? Your theory could be 100% spot on. And I would like that if it was like this bigger part of a bigger plan. And maybe if they do that, it'll be a bigger payoff for me. But because you're right, this is episode 1 of season 2 of American Horror Stories, which connects
Yes.
to. Yeah.
But I also think even though he was a little turd, her maternal instincts and her compassion and empathy and our ability to root for her,
Yes.
despite this kid being a little jerk face, I think it redeemed her ever more. But you're right. I do hope he comes back and is like a dandy-esque character from the season 3. I think that was too. Yeah, I think if they bring it back, I'd be pretty happy with it. But it started off strong for me. I'm sad to hear that you didn't feel like it was that strong of an episode.
I think it just means that I enjoyed some of the others a little bit more at the top of this list, which is a good thing.
True. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Now,
now we're bouncing to me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I've done my 8, 7, 6, and we've technically talked about my 5. Because
okay, here my 5 is then the one that followed Dollhouse, Aura.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that this is higher than a couple of these for you because I found this one kind of weak. I guess weak is the word for it.
All right.
There's no scary aspect to it at all to me. It didn't have any legit frights. We're dealing with like a ghost story here, right?
Mhm.
We're using technology, these Ring devices. I don't know what they call them in this, but it's essentially the Ring where you got the camera at the front door. When they ring the doorbell, you get to see who's there. Person's not actually there when she goes to the door. And then there's ultimately the backstories of people that have harmed them in their life that are coming back to essentially say they're sorry so they can move on. And then, of course, we find out that her husband also has a dark side to him as well, and how he didn't kill her, but he led to her death, right? He led to his former girlfriend's death, who wanted to marry him, but he didn't want to marry her. Something along those lines. It's been a minute since I watched this episode. Yeah. Fill me in on how that all went down.
So we learn that this new ghost who is visiting them has unfinished business because this man left her for dead.
Right. Okay.
He left her for. I'm also trying to run through it in my head. So They argue. She gets out of the car. She gets hit by a car. But yeah, now I'm confused as far as like how they justify that, because he takes off. He takes off and
Right.
leaves.
And ultimately, what really boils down to is he was about to kill then his wife, Gabrielle Sidibe, at end. So he's definitely murderous. He has it coming.
Right.
We can boil it down to that. And this is played by Max Greenfield from New Girl fame. And he's married to Gabrielle Sidibe, who I hadn't seen for a long time. Did you believe their chemistry?
No.
Neither did I. I found it to be bizarre casting. I thought it was interesting at first, but I did not believe it in the end. But granted, I guess that's because he was a manipulative dude, and maybe it wasn't there anyways because he was taking advantage of the situation. I just didn't. I felt like it was so useless of an episode. Like after the one that I thought was so strong, to move into this one, to have the payoff that it does, and it just felt like almost like a spooky story you'd see on the Lifetime channel, you know?
Yes, I agree. I agree with you in what you said, but the things that I like about it, and I'll talk about it additionally, because sometimes like the simplicity works really well. But
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it too much because it's a little higher on my list, believe it or
Oh,
not. Yeah, but to your point, I did have the same issue with casting. I thought they both did great in their roles, but the relationship itself felt weird.
yeah.
I think it felt way disconnected than it should have been, because they're married, and there are plenty of moments and opportunities for them to maybe be a little bit more romantic, but they're kind of cold.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
it didn't work for me. I'm curious to see where that lands for you. So what's the next one going up your list?
Drive, which is
Drive lands at what number for you?
4.
Okay, it's 3 for me. I thought it was one of the better ones of the season for sure.
I did enjoy the mystery of it. I liked, they had a really good spin payoff at the end.
It did.
But overall, yeah, what's her name? Bella Thorne?
Bella Thorne, yeah.
Bella Thorne, I was kind of like, oh, cool. Because I know she pops up in horror. I thought she was kind of an interesting lead for this episode, though. I don't know. Because I thought her performance was fine, but I thought the best friend was the better actor, who she's really quick to dismiss later on. And like, yeah. But the thing I liked about this episode so much is that it's another urban legend. It's another story that we know about, or if you don't, when I was a kid, we'd always hear that story about the person driving behind you. I think it was with their headlights off first,
honking their horn and flashing their headlights, trying to get you to pull over.
And this
even
actually
hitting your car a little bit.
Yeah, and this actually might appear in the movie. Remember the movie Urban Legend that like in the early 2000s?
It does.
Yeah. Okay. So I really liked that they used that as almost like a small part of this, because they kind of quickly dismiss the idea, but it comes back in a nice reveal. This is one of those episodes I'm like, we could explain everything that happens, but like, I don't know. Do I want to?
No, this one has a good enough twist at the end that it might be worth just letting people enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hadn't really seen Bella Thorne in anything else. You're telling me she pops up in other horrors?
Yeah, I believe she's in the movie The Babysitter.
Oh, is that her? Is she the lead of The Babysitter?
Not the lead, but she's one of the friends. I think she's in Babysitter 1 and 2. I could be wrong, but she's one of like the cool friends.
All right. Yeah, that's a good flick too. The first one was pretty gory.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. I thought it was weird that they had like this open relationship.
Right. And again, it's like I didn't necessarily buy their connection again.
Correct,
I feel like they're struggling with couple casting.
Yeah, and it might not just even be the casting. It may be the writing, where they've got too much to do in this short amount of time, because these are, just an anthology series. I'm not gonna defend that necessarily, because there are things you could do to make a relationship a little bit more grounded, maybe. But as soon as you find out they're in an open relationship, it sort of like yeah, it kind of throws that idea out the window of any grounded. Like,
Right. But I think it moved. The pacing was really good in it. The twist is really good. She was an interesting casting, like you said. But you're
yeah,
right. Her friend is better. Uh, but it just I don't know. I didn't see it coming. I should have. I feel like after having watched it, but I didn't. And it's definitely top three for both of us, obviously, right? Or is this your four?
no, this is 4 for me.
This is four. Okay, this is three for me. So it did make my top three just barely. Should I tell you then my four,
Yes, please.
which I think is going to be obviously higher, because we've talked about this one prior. Bloody Mary comes in at four for me.
Okay.
So Bloody Mary, this is an interesting contemporary take on the classic story of when you look in a mirror, turn off the lights, say Bloody Mary three times, it's going to come out. And the gouge your eyes stuff, that is familiar, right? You had heard that. That has always been part of this lore, no?
Yes, yes, I believe so. Yes.
And certainly, I mean, Candyman is kind of a also a take on this as well, dealing with the mirror and popping out. But Bloody Mary is the OG, right? And this one's interesting because it has such a cool twist. Instead of Bloody Mary overtly coming and getting you when you say it, she demands you do something for her that's horrible in order to avoid having your eyes gouge out and beyond. Um, so these four girls, when you got a sister pairing as well, there are all expected to do these horrible things. One is expected to let her cheerleader friend fall and become paralyzed.
Yeah.
There's one girl who doesn't share what she has to do, and that's really a great payoff at the end. I feel like
Hmm.
when we do find out what she was asked to do. Um, what did you think of the actual Bloody Mary, our performer in this? The way she looked, did it
I
give you
loved
chills?
it. I
Yeah.
loved it. I loved it. Because you could have gone two different ways here. You could have gone really scary, maybe horrifying in a visual, but you had a very cool Bloody Mary. Like she,
Yeah.
just by looking at her, it almost had like, wow, there's a lot going on as far as you've got some like history. You could almost tell that like she's not from this time or she's been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got almost, to me, it almost felt like Egyptian in a weird way. I don't know if it was maybe
Mm.
because of like her dressing, like you see like the gold and the red.
Well,
Uh,
that's not far off because if you think about it, this is like Bloody Mary combined with like a genie story because it's like instead of
yeah,
genie in a
yeah,
bottle, it's Bloody Mary in a mirror sort of thing,
yeah,
wanting to bust out. Uh,
y-
so the Egyptian thing's
yeah.
not necessarily far off.
All right, maybe, yeah, maybe I'm not wrong there,
But
but
good payoff. It moved really interesting. There's awesome lore in it too. I feel like
yes,
where
yes,
you got this like expert at the college the older girl goes to, kind of like getting into the lore of what happened in this town with
yeah,
slave trades and how there was this one really horrible woman who would lure runaway slaves in, claiming she was going to protect them, only to do the opposite.
right.
I felt like there was great. It was well rounded as a whole. I really liked it, and thinking about it more, maybe it is worthy of the top three. Because
Yeah,
it's definitely one of the best.
yeah, it's definitely in my top three. Oh man, school just got out. It's crazy in this neighborhood right now. I definitely had it
What
in my
were the
top
other
three. I don't.
girls asked to do? One girl was asked to essentially release nudes of her ex-boyfriend's girlfriend,
Yes,
and
yes.
the other one was, oh yeah, asked to say that her counselor had
That fondled
messed with
her,
her
or
sexually. So
yes, 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 yes,
it
yes,
was
yes.
pretty horrible things that Bloody Mary was asking these characters to do.
Yeah,
Um,
well, really, really, you know, ethical. Like it was a
right,
really interesting thing to put on somebody. You really have to go into your morals and be like, how bad do I want this? Am I willing to
right.
ruin someone else's life for my gain? And I thought that
Right.
was
I left that out. Not only will she not kill you, but she's going to give you exactly what you want
right.
too.
Well, you
Which
gave the genie. You alluded to that, so
exactly.
yeah,
I dug it. I definitely. Um, I saw the merit in this one. It was better written than most of them. Um, and there was diversity in it in a way we don't see in a lot of these. So I definitely dug it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what is? Have you hit us with your number 3?
No, because Drive was my 4. My number
Okay.
3 is Aura, and we just we
Yeah.
just talked about that.
Oh yeah,
and
you
the
wanted to
reason,
mention something else though.
well, the reason I didn't really dive into it, the reason I really enjoyed it was because it felt very different from the other episodes. It kind of relied on the one location. I really enjoyed the neighbor character that we got the
Oh yeah.
it was really funny but also practical device that they were able to use his camera, his doorbell
Mhm.
camera, to see what was going on, and no one was there, which you kind of had a feeling like there's not going to be anybody there. But the thing that I really liked it was how it felt kind of like a um, the reason certain episodes resonated for me than others because they felt familiar. Like this felt like a Tales from the Crypt. It felt like something
Okay.
that um, Tales from the Crypt often dealt with revenge or
Yes. Or ethical
justice.
conundrums. Or backstories that are coming back to the forefront.
Exactly. But the thing that was a fun spin on this was, yeah, you're right. It wasn't terrifying. However, it did have a nice payoff. The husband gets his comeuppance, but
Oh yeah.
at what cost? Now she is haunted by
By
him
him. Yeah. Yeah.
in
The
a
very
new
end was
apartment.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was decent. And I do
Yeah.
love love tech horror angle.
I was just gonna say that.
I just wish it got a little scurrier for me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really the whole thing with the janitor was the first ghost that she's dealing with from her old school who had a crush on
Correct.
her or something. It just
Yeah, it was
didn't
very
sell.
it was very weird,
It was weird.
but
I didn't buy it.
yeah, I guess I just liked how it felt different than the others, that it kind of relied on a single location. She ventures off to do her mystery solving, like to the park, to the janitor's sister or whatever. But it mainly relied on that device of the doorbell camera, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I get that. Well, my number 1. So my number 2 is the only one I haven't talked about at all.
Right.
I'm assuming, and
Which
that's
is probably going to be my number 1.
Judith Light and Facelift.
Yeah, that's my number 1. So meaning my number 2 was Bloody Mary, which we just dove into a lot. I really just loved the updated version. It felt, this isn't.
It was cool.
Yeah, it just doesn't have to be the classic Bloody Mary. This was just a modern day twist on it, which I really liked. But let's talk Facelift, because it's
Yes.
my number 1. It's
We
your
both
number
really
2.
like this one. Your 1, my 2. I mean, first of all, let's talk about how it calls back to the Twilight Zone episode with the pig nose.
Yes,
that was cool. I didn't
Right.
really see that coming. Did you?
I didn't either.
Anticipate this really cool twist? Because we have Judith Light, who is oldish, and she's really self-conscious about her looks, enough so that when she sees an old friend of hers who's getting on the hot neighbor across the street who looks just so much younger, she's given the card a la this is very much like Death Becomes Her at times too. Enough so where this plastic surgeon, or this not even plastic surgeon, this woman who can make you look younger, looked a lot like Isabella Rossellini from Death Becomes Her. I feel like they patterned her off of that character. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I was just going to say, the thing that you need to understand here is that Judith Light, from the very beginning of this episode, which I really, really liked how they did this, we knew that she was obsessed with her image. And so much so where she's urinating and then trying to use urine to help make her face look tighter or whatever it is.
Right.
And I liked the stepdaughter played by the actor
our Severance girl.
Our Severance. I thought she was great. I liked how I really liked their dynamic, because they felt like mother-daughter, but then we learned that they're
stepdaughter. And it was just so interesting how she never had called her that until she was like underneath all the bandages and stuff, and kind of like trying to distance herself from the stepdaughter. You're right. Their dynamic was really cool and viable, and you could tell that they both did care about each other. certainly maybe even the stepdaughter cared more about her, as we see at the end.
Absolutely.
But
Uh,
that does reversify. I mean, ultimately, she does end up being the winner, the stepdaughter, if there's a winner in any
yeah,
of
yeah, that
this.
was a fun twist, but also, yeah, also this felt very much like a Twilight, or sorry, a Tales from the Crypt
Yes.
episode.
Well, and
Uh,
Twilight Zone. I felt like it was a
sure,
hybrid of the two.
sure, sure. Very, very fun idea here that there's a group of elites, if you will, the attractive people who are and like in a cult. It is a
Yeah.
cult where they sacrifice to their to the you would assume it's the devil, right? Aren't they doing a deal
Yeah,
with Satan
that's what
here?
I was getting for sure. It's like a
However,
Celt. Usually, it's always these Celtic cults that are speaking Gaelic because when they're putting her out and she thinks she's about to get plastic surgery, they're starting to chant. I'm pretty sure that was Gaelic.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah,
pagans.
okay. Did you have any beefs with this episode?
I'm sure. I mean, I think I'm just so focused on the things that I really liked here.
Yeah,
I I don't know.
for me, it was
I
like I thought it was really interesting. The twist at the end. It turns out they're gonna hunt her, but just the
yeah,
whole hunt sequence I felt seemed a little ridiculous because
sure,
it lasted. It was so short, and I don't know. That just it seemed kind of superfluous. Like, what's the point? Why not just sacrifice her
right.
right there versus having the run and hunt? Um, but yeah, this one was top two for me. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
I
great seeing Judith Light in horror. Had you ever seen that?
Well, get this. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it, and then remembered we just talked about her on Shining Veil.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
so
that's
not only
right.
is she acting again because it's been a long time, but she's picking very fun
Genre
projects, like
roles. Yeah.
things that are very different than she's done in her past. I I I I was really happy to see her in the lead as this because she's just. I mean, she's just a great performer.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
amazing. She's so much
yeah,
fun. And
yeah.
she commits. She definitely commits.
Yeah.
Uh
And there's
yeah.
just some creepy things with body horror here too. I mean, I really liked how they set it up too about like the hands, and then when you see
Oh
them, like
yeah.
they're pig
Right.
feet. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Yeah,
favorite.
the hooves that they give her. Yeah, very diggable. I think it literally is half of the episodes are solid and the other
Yeah.
half are really weak.
Hmm.
I guess that's the nature of the beast when you're doing anthologies. It's just the way it's gonna go. But it's enough to keep me interested. I will watch AHS 3 just to see if they then tie in the carnival season
Right.
as they have
Right.
been sequentially
And
doing.
I just love horror anthologies. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I can't praise Tales from the Crypt enough, but this season gives me hope that, like, you know what, I can see this almost doing better than the actual main series American Horror Story at the end
Wow.
of the day.
That's a
Yeah,
huge statement.
yeah, because
Uh,
I think
I think
American
they got
Horror.
better cast this year too than last year. They had some
Yeah,
actual names, where I didn't feel like it was as heavy with notables. I guess they
Alicia
had Dylan
Silverstone.
McDermott last year. They had Cody Fern in an episode again. Billy Lord came back, so it seemed like they were pulling from
Hmm.
their own pool in that
Yeah,
first American Horror Stories. But this time they were branching out a little bit more, which I definitely appreciated.
yeah,
Granted,
with some
Gabrielle
actors.
Sidibe has been in a season. She was in Coven.
Yeah,
Um,
she's
but she
and then,
might, and Cody Fern might be the only ones that they're reusing. Otherwise, yeah, bringing in people like Alicia Silverstone, even though her episode sucked, I thought it was fun.
oh, but
It was good to see her.
the actor from the Dollhouse though, he's a
Yes,
regular.
Dennis O'Hare too. You can't
Yeah,
not use Dennis O'Hare. He's just too good.
yeah, he's
But yeah,
great.
I think you got any other final statements on this puppy?
No, I thought this was a really, and if you haven't checked it out yet, and we've just ruined it for you, I still think it's fun to watch because it's setting up the spooky season really well here.
Yes, indeed. And of course, we will be tackling American Horror Story NYC at some point. So get
We will.
excited for that. And in the meantime, stay alive.